Good morning, everyone. So today we will study about the bridging between languages. So I prepared a presentation. Let's start with the concepts and definitions first. The first one is bridging. What do we mean by bridging? Bridging is the process of transitioning from learning one language to another. Next is the early exit transition. Early exit transition is the mother tongue, or L1 is the medium of instruction, then switch to L2 and or L3 as the MO1. Next is the late exit transition. Late exit transition is the mother tongue, or L1, is the medium of instruction for 5 to 6 years or more, then switch to L1 and or L2 as an MO1. Next is the mother tongue. Mother tongue is the language or the languages that one has learned first. Mother tongue is referred to as first language, or the L1, home language or heritage language. Next is the mother tongue-based multilingual education. So it is a learner-centered, active basic education which starts in the mother tongue and gradually introduces one or more languages in a structural manner linked to children's understanding in their first language or the mother tongue. Multilingual education. It is adopted in 1999 in UNESCO's General Conference Resolution number 12. The term refers to the use of at least 3 languages. So the goal of MTB-MLE is that when students finish the program, they are multilingual, multiliterate, and multicultural, and prepared to be productive members of their home, community, and the nation as well. Next is the second language, or the L2. Second language learned after the L1. So we have the first language, which is the L1, and then we have the second language, which is the L2. A second language learned at school for formal education. So the second language is learned after the L1 for educational purposes. So the benefits of the MTB-MLE. There is ample research showing that students are quicker to learn to read and write and acquire academic skills when first taught in their mother tongue, or the L1. They learn second language more quickly than those initially taught to read in an unfamiliar language. We know that it is important that students continue to develop both languages and use both of them for learning, at least through primary level or primary school. When children continue to develop their abilities in 2 or more languages throughout their primary school years, they gain deeper understanding of language and how to use it effectively. They have more practice in processing language, especially when they develop literacy in both, and they are able to compare and contrast the ways in which their 2 languages organize reality. So let's proceed to the next slide, which is the 3 kinds of development. We have the 3 kinds of development. The first one is the language development. Language development is wherein students develop fluency and confidence in understanding, speaking, reading, writing, viewing, and thinking in their first language, and then transfer those abilities to the official or school language for communication and lifelong learning. The second one is the academic development. In academic development, students achieve the required academic competencies in each subject at the end of the MTB-MLE program. The third one is the social-cultural development. In social-cultural development, students are proud of their heritage language and culture and respect the language and culture of the others. When they complete their education, they are equipped to contribute actively to the development of their home, community, and to the nation of which they are part. So again, the three kinds of development are language development, academic development, and socio-cultural development. Let's proceed to the components of MTB-MLE. So the first one is strong foundation. In strong foundation, research shows that children who start education in the language of their home tend to do better in the later years of their education, according to Thomas and Collier 1997. The next one is the good bridge. In good bridge, well-planned transition from learning through the mother tongue or L1 to learning through other language or languages results in better learning outcomes. So, planning a strong foundation and a good bridge. In strong and successful MTB-MLE programs, students from non-dominant language communities build a strong educational foundation in their first language. They learn one or more additional languages and they achieve fluency and confidence in using both or all languages for communication and for lifelong learning. Here is the step-by-step process for helping students bridge between languages in MTB-MLE. So the first step is build small children's fluency and confidence in oral L1. The next step is continue oral L1 as a subject wherein you will introduce reading and writing in L1. The third step is continue oral and written L1 as a subject wherein you will introduce oral L2. The fourth step is continue oral and written L1 and oral L2 as subjects wherein you will introduce reading and writing in L2. And then the last step is continue oral and written L1 and oral L2 as subjects. Use first L1 and then both languages for instruction at least through primary school. So here are the 5 steps for helping students bridge between languages in MTB-MLE. Although the specific steps of the process might be different in different contexts, we can identify 6 general components of bridging programs. And let's start with the first one. Continue to focus on oral L1, especially to age 8 to 10. Focus on using L1 for higher level thinking, listening, and speaking. The second one, introduce literacy in L1 and build fluency in reading and writing meaningfully and correctly. The third one, introduce and build fluency in oral L2. Begin with listening and responding to commands in L2. Later, add speaking in L2 and gradually build fluency in everyday L2 for a variety of communicative activities. The fourth, introduce and build fluency in written L2, remembering that children will be able to transfer their understanding of the reading and writing process from their L1 to their L2. Then, the fifth step, continue teaching oral and written L1 and L2 as subjects at least to the end of the primary school. Then the sixth, or the last step, use L1 as the only language of instruction in early grades and use both L1 and L2 for instruction in middle to later primary grades. Next is the language progression plan. So here is the language progression plan. Languages, here in this column, languages taught and as subjects, and then languages used for teaching, and the following is the grade level. So in K1, languages taught as subjects, build oral L1 or the school language. Here, you will begin pre-reading and pre-writing. Languages used for teaching is the L1 for teaching. In K2, continue oral. Then you will introduce L1 literacy, then begin with oral L2. The language used for teaching is the L1, followed by grade 1, continue oral and written L1 and oral L2. The language used for teaching is L1. And for grade 2, you will continue oral and written L1 and oral L2. You will bridge to written L2. The same way the grade 1, L1 is used for teaching. Then for grade 3, you will also continue oral and written L1 and L2. Then you will begin oral L3. L1 and L1 for teaching. That's the language used for teaching. And then for grade 4, continue oral and written L1 and L2, then oral L3. L1 followed by L2 followed by L1. That's the language used for teaching. Then for grade 5, continue oral and written L1, L2, and then L3. You will bridge to written L3. Then L2, L1, and L2 for teaching is the language used. And then lastly, for grade 6, continue oral and written L1, L2, and L3. L2, L1, L2 for teaching. So this progression plan is for an MTB MLE program in which children learn these languages and use 2 of them for learning. This 8-year program includes 2 years of kindergarten and 6 years of primary school. Children start year 1 of kindergarten at the age of 4 and begin learning to read and write in their L1 at the age of 5. So last is building a strong foundation in L1. So strong foundation is a part or the component of the MTB MLE. So according to our research, building a strong foundation in L1 is the most powerful factor in predicting educational success for minority learners is the amount of formal schooling they received in their L1. Only those language minority students who had 5 to 6 years of strong cognitive and academic development in the L1 as well as through L2 did well in grade 11. That is according to Thomas and Collier 2001. So that would be all for my presentation about the bridging between languages, and here are the references that I used for this presentation. Thank you.